Okay. Right.
Could you explain this project you all are doing?
Say again.
Can you explain this
Yeah,
project?
so I'll explain. So yeah, so right. So what it is basically, we want to. It's about you and your career and you winning the Nobel Peace Prize award,
Mm.
and all your activism for years, and the mines, etc. And I was doing all my research on you. John Hopkins University is such an amazing university you went to. So it's a feature about you. All the extraordinary stuff that you've done. So.
Yes,
Yes.
but
No, so
you've done other Nobels, right?
no, no, you are the first Nobel Peace Prize award. I've interviewed many politicians and prime ministers, but you are the first Nobel Peace Prize, and I'm very honored to talk to you.
Oh, well, thank you.
No, you're welcome. Right. Well, let's start your interview. Let's start. Give me 1 second, sorry.
Sure.
Oh, let's start. Good afternoon. This is Kieran Rai here, reporting for Politicals. Today, I am with Jody, Jody Williams. Jody, she is a Nobel Peace Prize winner.
Laureate.
Laureate, absolutely. And also at the same time, she studied at John Hopkins University, and she changed the world on the basis of minds, etc. Jody, good afternoon. How are you?
Hi, I'm fine. Thank you for having me.
No, thank you. I really appreciate you coming. Really appreciate it. My first question to you is, how are you so far? How is everything with you?
How's everything with me? Uh, it's in a squishy place. I don't know how to describe it because of Mr. Trump and Mr.
Hmm.
Musk.
Hmm.
I call them the co-presidents. I
Hmm.
don't know if you have seen some
I've
of
seen. Hmm.
the pictures of him with a crown on his head. You know,
Yes, I've
we
seen that. Yes, I've seen that.
yes, we haven't had a king since the 1700s. So what is that? Is that you or me? Can you hear that wild beeping?
No, I can hear it. That's all right. It's okay.
Oh, okay. So who the hell does this man think he is? And
Hmm.
especially with co-president Musk,
Hmm.
who is as bad or worse than
Hmm.
Trump. And we have Mr. Trump's band of billionaire cabinet.
Oh,
It's
100%. So,
totally mind-boggling.
so I kind of want to go straight into your career. I believe, I've done days and days of research of you, and I think you're a very
Mm,
extraordinary human being,
mm,
on the basis of what you've achieved. And, to achieve a Nobel Peace Prize award is extraordinary,
mm.
and, out of billions of people around the world. So my first question to you is very simple. What inspired you to dedicate your life to activism,
Mm,
particularly the campaign to ban landmines?
mhm. Well, um, I was born in a town of 1,200 people in Vermont.
Mm,
My older brother had been born deaf. He's 3 years older than I am. My mother had measles,
mm.
and it resulted in that, and mental health issues, which is not uncommon, um, which is sad. My brother is 77.
Mm,
But the neighbor boys were very mean to him.
mm,
And it obviously affected me too. I got very angry and
mm,
tried to defend my brother from
mm,
Billy and Bobby brothers who lived next door. Um, and it sensitized me to bullying and that it's not right.
mm.
Not, not, I'm going to move. This seems like there's some,
Wherever you're most comfortable, no problem.
I
Wherever you're
know it's
comfortable.
just that beeping. I don't think
Yeah,
that's
no
very
problem.
nice. Okay. Um, so I was sensitized to that and
Mm,
did try to beat up Billy and Bobby to protect my brother. Uh,
right.
right. But then when I was in grade school,
Mm,
fourth grade, and I'm sure this was in part the result of my brother and the things that we had gone through with that.
mm,
We we moved we moved to a larger town, because there was a school for the deaf where he could go and live at home. Most
mm,
were boarding.
mm,
Um, and what grade was I in? Fourth, when I was in fourth grade, um, the handsomest boy in fourth grade was named David.
mm,
He was the stud, if you will, of fourth grade. He
mm,
was he was cute, he was smart, he was athletic and all those things. And at the beginning of the fourth grade year, which is a horrible thing for children, a young geeky guy
mm,
moved to our town. And so he's this new geek
mm,
in our classroom. And David liked to bully him around.
mm,
And one day we were outside at recess and we were playing kickball.
mm,
And David had the gall to tell Michael that he could not play.
mm,
And, I'm standing there and thinking, who the hell I didn't curse back then.
mm,
Who is David to tell Michael that he can't play?
100%.
100, I was furious. And at that age, I was terrified of authority. By
Mm,
the way, I didn't get rebellious until the end of high school. Uh,
mm,
But I was furious and I called him out.
mm,
David, I said, you have no right, blah, blah, blah. You,
mm.
ha- he has every right to play and you have to call him back and let him play. And shockingly, he did.
Right.
But that was the beginning of something because I really was standing there watching David and allow Michael to come in and thinking, holy moly, how many kids are we here?
100%.
Yeah,
Mm,
15, 20 kids, and
mm,
everybody's silent and letting him bully. And it
mm,
just didn't work for me. And it made me realize that if people have the courage to, you know, speak up on behalf of other people,
mm,
you can make a difference, or the action can make a difference.
mm,
I wasn't thinking about making myself magnificent. I was thinking about my own brother, and Michael has every right. And that stuck with me and grew as I got older. And of course, it was the period of the Vietnam War. And when I was, oh God, a sophomore, junior, I don't know, in high school,
mm,
the social studies teacher got a sabbatical, and we had a teacher doing his teacher practice who replaced the guy. And he was young and groovy with, wire rim glasses, and he wore oh God, what kind of shirt? I can't remember the name of the shirt, but it was from Africa.
right.
Uh, and he had the courage to talk about Vietnam,
Uh,
you know, why it was wrong, blah, 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 blah.
mm,
And it was, it
mm,
just got me,
yeah.
probably laying on top of my brother and laying on top of David and Michael. And um, that's when I started to really begin to think about the mythical history of the United States. Every
Mm.
country has a mythical history.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah,
Yeah, every country does. Yes,
every,
I
and
agree.
the USS was pretty,
Mm,
magnificent. We conquered the continent and all that. And oh, by the way, we, you know, tried to commit genocide. We did a
mm,
pretty good job, not as good as other places. But we worked hard at it and we, killed millions of buffalo because that was what sustained
mm,
the indigenous populations.
mm.
And that, um, just starting to think about that obviously is going to make you,
Of course, very emotional. Absolutely.
but
Absolutely.
also it's going to make you think
Think
differently.
100%.
Yes. Chip,
100%.
Chip Porter, the substitute teacher, whatever he was, is the person who really changed my political thinking.
Mm,
Actually, not too many years ago, I wrote him a letter
mm.
and thanked him and said what an influence he was on my thinking and the rest of my life.
It's
So
amazing.
it is
Amazing.
amazing. It is
Amazing.
amazing. If you,
It's a brilliant, it's a brilliant inspiration for you to dedicate your life to that.
Mhm.
One little episode made you continue, to change the world. It's fantastic, you know.
No, I just think I know I don't have to like everybody, and
Mm.
believe me, I don't.
But that's fair
But you
enough.
treat them fairly, you know.
100%, 100%.
I don't have to invite them to dinner and try to have fun with them, but treat them like human beings
Yeah.
with dignity and all that.
Mm.
But, no.
I also want to touch on obstacles. Now, in order for you, for anybody, I mean, there's only so many Nobel Peace Prize award winners in the world. There's only so
Mhm,
many, and it's very, 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 very small. So
mhm.
to get such a prestigious award, that there must have been struggles and obstacles in order for you to, you know, challenge and also to continue your work. So what obstacles did you face, expanding the mind, the mind ban, for the mind ban treaty globally?
Well, let me step back a second because I didn't jump from Chip Porter, the teacher, to the
Of course
landmark
not.
campaign.
Of course not. Of course not.
Yep, my
100%.
first protests were against the war in Vietnam when I was at the University of Vermont. And,
Mm,
and then we dramatically went down to the legislature of Vermont and, went in the gallery, whatever it is, and demanded that our representatives, take a position and send letters or whatever to the president. Um, and then I also started protesting nuclear weapons. I grew up in the generation. Do you know the expression duck and cover generation?
hmm
We, yes, we had to practice protecting ourselves from nuclear attack by curling up in a ball under our wooden desk.
Wow.
It, that was duck and cover. Just unbelievable. It terrorized me actually. I have such gut feelings about
Mm.
nuclear weapons. I vividly remember Kennedy coming on television when, the Cuban Missile Crisis. And I
So you've
still,
seen a lot. You've seen a lot of history in your eyes. You've seen a lot of that.
yep. And then I, after the Vietnam War, after I got out of college,
Mm,
I got a job. Actually, it was after graduate school at Johns Hopkins.
mm,
And I was working in Central America, trying to stop U.S. military intervention in Central America,
mm,
primarily Nicaragua and El Salvador. And the thing that got me is I was walking to the subway after I was a teacher at the time, and
mm,
some guy was at the metro, scruffy looking and everything, and he stuffed a pamphlet at me, and
mm.
I thought, as soon as I see a trash can, of course, but I didn't find one, so I looked at it on the subway, reading it, on the way
Mm,
home, and the title was El Salvador, Another Vietnam. And that blew me away. Vietnam, what's that got to do with El Salvador? And it invited people to a meeting a week later at a church basement to learn about the US and El Salvador. And what what amazes me most about it is that I went. I
mm,
was inspired at the moment, right? Oh, what's going on? But it was a week later, and I went to a meeting in a basement of a church,
mm,
learned about it, and it totally captured me.
mm,
So ended up working on Nicaragua, Salvador, a little bit on Guatemala from when 70, no, 82 for 12 years,
mm,
11,
mm,
12
mm,
years.
mm,
A
mm,
lot
mm,
of spent a lot of time, particularly in Salvador during the
mm,
wars
mm, mm,
um, and then I was invited to think about creating a landmine campaign by Bobby Mueller and God, who was the president of the Vietnam Vets of America Foundation, wheelchair vet, not from landmines, and a German organization, Medico International, that I had worked with in Salvador. Um, and I was sick of Central America.
mm,
And I thought, this would be an interesting challenge to try to get rid of these landmines,
mm,
try to get people to come together and push. So it started out with those two organizations
mm,
and a staff of one, me. But with a German and a US organization, we could call it the International Campaign to Protect Mines, which certainly sounds dramatic. Uh, But we grew to 1,300 NGOs in about 90 countries. Mine,
amazing.
yeah, amazing.
Amazing. It's
Yep,
incredible.
yep.
It's
And
incredible.
it was
It's
not
incredible.
not just a, dramatically successful campaign. The way that we treated each other was pretty amazing for an
Mm,
international campaign, people from different cultures, blah, blah, blah. But most of the campaigners felt like the campaign was a family,
mm,
um, and said that all the time. And that kind of blew me away. Um, but I think it's because we tried to have a general plan for every 6 months, but we never, ever told an NGO how to do it in their own country.
mm,
If you agree with this plan and want to take part in it,
mm,
you decide how you're going to do it in your country. We can't do that. That's rude. It's Trumpian.
mm.
It's just disgusting. Everybody knows their own culture better than some arrogant twit coming in to tell them what to do. We didn't tell people what to do. We gave them the chance to participate.
Mm.
Their choice. And when you have choice, you're much more inclined to do something if you're part of the effort anyway.
Oh,
Uh,
100%.
yeah.
100%.
And I still have very warm feelings about um, that time in my life.
I also want to touch on the basis of another question. Now, how do
Mm,
you see, sorry, in your work on human security,
mm,
you improvise that security is more than just military power.
of course.
How, how should governments redefine security in the 21st century?
Well, given the situation of today,
Hmm,
it's hard. I mean, it's hard to imagine,
hmm,
given that Mr. Trump voted with Russia against Ukraine, which is
hmm,
mind-boggling, but
hmm,
not surprising because he'd been talking about it.
hmm,
Uh, and multilateralism has taken a huge hit,
hmm,
starting, I'm not sure when,
hmm.
probably the beginning of the last decade. And now with Trump and Putin, and it's a dangerous time in our world.
Oh, 100%.
I have
100%.
no doubt. I mean, I read something yesterday about the US looking at the possibility of nuclear testing in the air. I mean, what are these people smoking or drinking or what? How do they think? How can you think after all the things that we, saw happen after
Hmm,
Japan
hmm,
and all of the testing of weapons before? I'm reading a book about the US's what it did in the Marshall Islands and how it refused to help the people that it nuked. Just it's horrifying. And these people seem to really love weapons. Trump,
hmm.
well, certainly Russia, certainly Ukraine. They're not saints, but they
What
are.
what do you think? Sorry to interrupt you, but what do you
Sure, go
think?
ahead.
So, what do you think Elon Musk's agenda is? Because clearly, I mean, with all due respect, a billionaire. He's got all the money in the world. SpaceX, Tesla,
Mhm.
um, you know,
PayPal.
Neuralink, PayPal, etc., etc. What do you think in your personal opinion, from your mindset and your intelligence, what do you really think his agenda is?
Lust for power, more power. How can you have more power than what he has? As you say, he's
Mm,
the richest man in the universe. I think it's a lust for money and power. The same, I think, for Trump. I think that's why they co-pres, I call them the co-presidents, and I'm not the only one, of course. Um, they want more power. mean, look at the Mr. Trump's executive orders where he's, resulting in tens of thousands of people having no job.
Mm,
And he thinks that's great. He
mm,
thinks that makes us more secure somehow, that the bureaucrats who know how to run the system are being fired. That the top military officers have been fired.
mm,
The FBI top people are being fired.
mm,
I'm not a fan of the FBI, believe me. Uh, although I do have one close friend who was an agent and an amazing agent.
mm,
Um, but what is the purpose of that?
mm,
Getting rid of all of them, and then it'll be Musk and Trump and all the
mm.
other billionaires.
It's very, they're very, it's a very dangerous time. And,
Totally.
I have to be impartial as a journalist, but in my
Mhm.
personal opinion, I am scared. I am
Yeah.
worried because you've got someone who's got so much wealth
Mhm.
that that is scary because money is power.
It
And
is.
to give him that one, and also at the same time, with all due respect, he also controls space,
Yes. Yes.
controls, AI, artificial intelligence. I mean, we're talking to a man who controls basically the whole Earth
Yeah. Yeah. And beyond with
and
SpaceX.
beyond
Yeah.
because he wants to go to Mars.
Oh
You know,
God,
his,
send
you
send
know,
it. Take a few with you. Ugh. Oh, yes, it's scary. If people, don't have some degree of confusion and fear, I
Mm.
wonder what they're smoking. I'm sorry, I don't smoke,
No,
but
no, fair enough.
it's a good.
Fair
Love the smell. I hate the.
enough.
I think it smells cool, but ugh.
But
Mm,
my also other question is now is Trump, from what I've read and what I've seen, and what I've discovered, I've noticed that he recently stated that Zelensky, the Ukrainian president, was a dictator, but 4 months before, or maybe 6 months before, he was supporting Ukraine,
yeah,
and at the same time, he says things that may be also detrimental to other people and
sure.
other people's opinion. But at the same time, he changes his thoughts. And also, linking this to Nobel Peace Prize, he has
Mhm.
been
Ah,
nominated. He's been
yes.
nominated a couple of times, but he's always been very sour in when he never gets the award. He never gets the confirmation that he's going to become the next Nobel Peace Prize. Do you think what his people say that the Ukraine and him involving in Ukraine and Russia to resolve the situation will give him the
No,
Nobel Peace Prize?
it won't. It couldn't. He hasn't done anything,
Mm, mm,
and he's selling out Ukraine, and the whole world accepts that Russia invaded, Ukraine.
mm, mm,
So
mm.
a kind of peace that at least I've been reading about that he wants is not a Peace Prize accomplishment. I'm sure you've seen his trying to steal the minerals and all that stuff.
Yeah, yeah, I've seen all. Yeah, 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 I've
Yep,
seen all.
yep, yep. That isn't peace. That's
Because he gets very disappointed when he knows he gets rejected at the end. So he'll get nominated, then he'll get rejected, and he becomes very sour. When we can see that in his face, he gets very, very upset. And a lot
mhm,
of people say that he's doing the Ukraine. He's trying to resolve the issue with Ukraine and Russia in order to get that Nobel Peace Prize.
mhm. Um, I really don't worry that he would get it. And if he did, I would help organize a protest at the Nobel ceremony because there are quite a few who I wanted to do that for, or two, but especially him. I, there was a Hollywood star who wanted the Nobel Prize, uh, and his people called me and wanted to set up a meeting so we could talk about a campaign to get this
Mm,
Nobel, not Nobel, this Hollywood actor a
mm,
Nobel Prize. And I said to them that I would have nothing to do with that. that the person didn't deserve a Nobel Prize, and that if you do good work in with getting the Nobel Prize on your mind, in my view, you don't deserve it.
Oh,
That's,
100%. 100%.
no.
Because
So
if your aim is to get the Nobel Peace Prize, then clearly you've got the wrong thought process. That's what you're trying to say.
exactly.
Because you're doing it for the basis of
Wanting to be,
self-recognition.
yep. So I also wrote a letter to the Nobel Committee about
Mm,
the individual in question and why an actor and one who'd done nothing did not deserve the Nobel Prize. I'll probably write one about Trump.
mm,
It will not be necessary, but it will make me feel good
mm. But they
saying
will
this.
listen. But they will also listen to you because, end
Of
of the
course,
day, you they will take your. I'm sure they'll take your letter into consideration.
yeah. So sorry, Trump, you do not deserve the Peace Prize.
Mm,
I don't know what that man deserves. He certainly does not deserve to be president. I
mm,
wonder how many people who voted for him are now freaking out,
mm,
because what they're doing to destroy the government also has impact on greater society.
mm,
I was reading an article about some company that had to, downsize. I think it lost like 63% of
mm,
its workforce
mm,
because, they had contracts with government that now they won't get paid because the government offices don't have money.
mm.
It's just mind-boggling.
I'm just going to ask you a thinking question.
Sure.
Artificial intelligence,
Yeah,
social media,
yeah.
Instagram, Facebook, Meta, Twitter, etc., and our mobile phones have taken all over us. I mean, we
Oh,
just non-stop, we scroll on the basis of nothing. Sometimes we just scroll and we don't even know what we're looking at.
oh,
I'm 33 years old. I
your
was,
baby.
there we go. There we go. I'm a baby. There we go. Absolutely.
Oh,
Young,
I mean, a young man, not
young man.
baby.
No, it's fine. It's true. It's you're trying to, and that's fair enough. I've got a lot of time to learn, but because you've seen the world for how it was before social media, and I don't be wrong, I also
Yeah.
did it. I also saw it in when I was at school. We used to have them Nokia 3310s, the really small little phones.
Mhm.
Do you prefer this generation, or do you prefer the generation in the 90s and the 80s?
You mean, how do I feel about technology?
Technology now, just generally, this is the world that we are in now, where we we label people, we blame people, we become more selfish. Everyone's a bit more, how do I say no? Everyone's a bit more selfish now. What was the world like when you were growing up, and what do you think about this generation right now?
I think the obsession with the technology is having a terrible impact on
Hmm.
kids growing up. I once watched two teenage girls um, who happened to be the children of my husband.
Hmm.
Um, they were texting
Hmm.
each other, and they were sitting beside each other.
It's amazing.
Yeah. And it was like, what the F are you doing? Um,
People forgot to have a conversation.
yep.
Yeah.
I hate the telephone, so I had a good beginning. I don't like the, landlines, and it didn't, prepare me to dislike the tech stuff.
Hmm.
But I'm also an introvert by nature. Um,
Right.
so I don't think if the phone rings, I have to answer it. You know,
It's
why do
not
you
you. Yeah, exactly.
why do you have to give up your space because some phone rang? Um,
Um, hmm.
obviously, I do use it sometimes, but
Hmm.
not like tech freaks do.
Like mandatory. Yeah. Hmm.
Yep. Um, the whole world is so different now, and then adding Trump and company, it's unbelievable. We keep wondering, why is Trump so obsessed with Putin? My husband jokes that he's probably an agent of Russia. Wouldn't shock me the way you know, and my husband is not a lightweight idiot. He works he ran the arms division, weapons of Human
Right,
Rights Watch. We
right.
met banning landmines. We created the NGO campaign to try to ban killer robots. Um, yeah, we've talked about it in the kitchen. It took me 6 months to badger him into agreeing to start a campaign to stop killer robots. Really hard, of course, because it's
Mm,
gajillions of dollars worth of contracts with the government.
mm.
So, not just ours. But of
Absolutely.
course, SpaceX gets billions of dollars from the US, of
Oh,
course.
100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
But
Mm,
you can fire everybody else. Ugh, it's just,
100%. My
mm.
other question is, what is your assessment of the previous government, Biden administrations, and foreign policy, particularly in the area of disarmament and peace building?
Well, they were terrible, in my view. Others
Mm,
would not agree.
mm,
Certainly, the 1,000-pound bombs that he sent to Israel to carry out, the genocide of the the Palestinians. That certainly was, well, it's a war crime, for God's sake.
mm.
Plain and simple war crime.
Yeah, it's a war crime. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Mm,
So I certainly don't think of him riding a white horse to save people from war. He was happy to give them weapons. Yeah, no, give them weapons. So
mm,
Israel, how much? I mean, tons. And Ukraine. Ukraine for me is a little bit different because it was an illegal act of aggression against them. I do believe they have the right to self-defense, but I don't believe that 48,000 Palestinians should have been killed in response to October 7th.
mm.
The US provided tons of weapons and jillions of dollars to help make that happen. And then we now have Mr. Trump. Let's, clean up Gaza and make a Riviera in the Middle East. Yes, I don't know what people think these days,
Oh, 100%.
except for I have the great fortune to work with people who, excuse my English, give a shit and
Mm,
are working for, a better world for everybody, even people we don't like, you know.
100%.
So
100%. With the US increasingly polarized, do you believe there is a viable path to rebuilding a bipartisan commitment to human rights and global cooperation?
um, it would take a long time. I actually, because of Trump and his vision of the US and the world, I fear more, you know, partisanship. I I would not be shocked if there were violence here
Mm,
directly related to the politics.
mhm,
Um, and that is frightening. But I do work with an organization called Global Governance. And we, the group that was put together by the guy who runs the Global Governance, Augusto Lopez Claro, oh, wait a minute, Lopez Claros, wrote a draft second UN. You can amend the UN Charter. So our group worked together to do a revision for today's world of the
mhm,
UN Charter.
mm,
And I think it's being presented at the UN soon.
mm,
So all of us who worked on that believe that it is possible
mm.
But at this particular point, I think it's incredibly, I don't know, I don't even know the right word, incredibly hopeful and being
Mm,
generous
mm,
to believe that we can rebuild multilateralism quickly.
mhm,
You
mhm,
know,
mhm.
it's just, I keep telling myself to stop reading the news. And then I read it because how can you not read what you wake up and seriously, what did this fellow do today? That's not a nice way to live.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
but um,
Jody, can I just stop you there? Can you, this link is about to expire in about 2 minutes. Can you just press the link and come back on again so we can get another 40 minutes on here? Is that okay? Is that right? So I'm gonna sign out and then you just sign out and then just press the link again. Yeah.
okay.